Whenever something becomes popular, a couple years pass and here I am. Today I set myself the task of creating the most efficient become a god without using bugs strategy for one of my favorite games back in middle school. It pisses me off that in most guides people resort to dipping resources and stats, abusing the interface for infinite XP and using other exploits that break immersion in the progression mechanics, which are essentially the main feature of the game. And you know, the few guides that don't use bugs lack sequence and depth in breaking down all that min-max chaos Todd Howard created. In this video I'll explain how not to miss permanent buffs that 90% of players don't use, how not to get permanent debuffs, and of course I'll do it all on hardest difficulty. And to clear up any questions, survival mode, which is considered the hardest, doesn't just add realistic stuff, it also gives 2 damage buffs to the player, one passive and another that builds up the longer you keep fighting without sleeping. As an extra bonus, survival doubles your XP gain, and instead of arguing which difficulty is harder, the one where you deal less damage or the one where you take more, I just manually removed all survival buffs, leaving only negatives for the player. And this way I made sure my guide fits anyone, no matter what difficulty you're playing on. The guide is divided into several sections, arranged in the most efficient order to give you the mathematically most optimal way to bring the wasteland on its knees. Before it starts, leave a like if you think I'm ugly. If not, it would be nice if you leave it anyway. Landing in a bathroom. I have no desire to play as a sub-5 normie, so I had to spend 30 minutes to mock the Vault-Tec wrap. Yeah, from an efficiency standpoint, it would be better if I created a woman, since most enemies are male, and with that perk you deal more damage, but I'm not looking for easy routes. Charisma for good prices, intelligence to pick the science perk on the 3rd level, 5 levels of luck for the 7th perk, which even though it gets a debuff from intelligence, is still a must-have in almost any playthrough, and all that's left I dump into endurance for a little bit of HP and the ability to run longer. So we encounter the consequences of Muslim migration. Since my wife is not pregnant for 200 years, our George droid didn't even try to visit us in the vault. The only use for him is that he can solo clear the settlement. While we are here, under no circumstances use the special book. Not now, save it for later. At that point of the game it can only be used as a crab that gives 1 free level to your stats, so I advise waiting and later converting that book into a permanent buff that will raise the stat we need above 10 points. Same with stat boosting bobbleheads you'll find in the game. Only use them if the stat that the bobblehead provides is already maxed. To avoid losing the book, enter construction mode, send it into the workbench inventory pressing this button. This way you can safely take it from it and store the unused book in any chest until better times. When needed, you'll be able to just drop it on the floor and activate. Right now what's worth the reading is a Grognak comic. In building mode, place that unremarkable pommel horse. It's a permanent agility bonus until your character uses another exercise equipment, like this strength boosting weight bench, or some other things that we'll gain access to later. I recommend looting all the junk the devs dumped in the area. While scrapping, most likely you will find some outfit that boosts charisma. You can take it from the workbench. In my case there were 3 outfits. Of course I picked the most suitable one. In the worst case, if you didn't find any, we'll get the best one later. To avoid problems with the water, in building mode place a couple of sinks which you can activate one by one very quickly to drink. This is by the way fastest free way to heal and restore thirst in the game. And unlike water pump, the sink does not run out over time and doesn't need to be rebuilt. About food, just harvest crops from local plants and plant some more, fight estrogens with pesticides in these fields. Before leaving the sanctuary, I move the chemistry station on the back lawn of one of the houses, make a couple dozen caltrop traps from accumulated steel for later sale, get a 2nd level, immediately take Savant to get XP even faster. Besides caltrops, which are made from steel, you can create wooden wall shelves, basically running a little 2-button script, standing near a wall and going to have a coffee. You'll come back around level 15. But I'm too lazy, I won't use that. Today I felt like speedrunning, so I'm hurrying. But you're free to do this script thing. It's not even a bug or a dupe. You basically pay 1 wood per shelf. Speaking of spamming buildings or water pumps, in Fallout every 2 days you get about half of the settlement's water rating deposited into the workshop as free consumables. The only problem is, after those 2 days pass, you need to wait 5 real minutes for them to appear. Water pumps generate a little amount of water and take a lot of space, so you can place multiple pumps, even multiple pumps inside one.
How is that possible? Science.
Place a carpet, preferably on some edge, so that the game registers the structure as standing on the carpet rather than on the ground. After that, any construction, including a pump, can be moved by moving the carpet itself. In this case, movement won't be limited by the hitbox of the structure placed on the carpet, but only by the carpet's hitbox. In the same way, you can make water farms even in settlements that have no access to rivers or oceans, just building pumps. But Sanctuary has a river, so at level 3 I invest a point into science and install a couple of industrial water purifiers powered by some cheap generators. In the neighboring Red Rocket, there's nothing especially interesting except for the cave beneath it, which is hard to miss since it glows at night. I clear a couple of mole rats and loot the barely noticeable glasses next to a book and a skeleton. It will be a nice trading buff for the future, and nearby, of course, it's worth picking up the key to power armor. Speaking of which, I strongly don't recommend doing Preston's quest. If you go inside the museum and talk to Garvey before finishing the Nuka Wall DLC, he will stop dealing with you and disappear as a companion and quest giver. But if you first complete all quests of a DLC where you are helping the raiders, then kill all the raiders and only then meet the Minutemen, there will be no problems. Still, you should trigger his quest to get a free comic later. For this, it's enough just to approach the museum building. If you're really eager to run around in power armor early in the game, while Preston is dealing with raiders from his balcony, nothing stops you from taking the secret shortcut and take the armor without any quests. When I first played Fallout 4, this path left by the devs even reminded me a bit of New Vegas with its variability. But don't get your hopes up. Todd isn't going to delight us with this kind of stuff too often. By the way, I showed the armor purely for you, dear viewers. I don't need it myself. I decided to do a little challenge and run through the start naked just to show the superiority of my strat, that even without protection, no one poses any threat to me. Walking along the road, walking by the wall, I meet Clara. Here you must choose the sarcasm option. After that, she'll give you a lifetime discount on all her goods for the rest of the game. Buy something crystal containing from her. Of course, you can also sell her the spikes we crafted earlier. And further left from the road, Wolfgang, and I don't remember her name. With our level of charisma, there are no problems getting them to give us money and forced to run away. The mother of the local crackhead gives me even more money. By this point, we should have about 470. If you sell our minigun, it would be even more. First, here are all the sleeping spots for survival, so I won't have to explain later where I saved along the way. Main thing while running around, keep in mind that sometimes you can find stack of 10 mines, for example, but on the other hand, quite often you might run into a pack of dogs or even better deers with legendary status, which consequently have potentially top-tier loot. You can check both mines and legendary enemies by holding the VATS button. The VATS system will automatically locate the nearest enemies and dangers around you, and if you do this fairly often, it will be harder to catch you off guard. In Fallout and like on YouTube, unfortunately, AI doesn't tell me what to watch, but Protectron will at least fight the local mobs for free if you hack the terminal next to its capsule. In the starting locations, all terminals are super easy to hack. Time to go collect some magazines. Below the first settlement, there's a ranger's shack with a couple of flies and a comic that reduces melee damage taken by 5%. As you can guess, that will make those annoying early ghouls, dogs and insects a bit weaker. A little south from here, in an extension to the barn, there is a buff to our melee critical damage. In Sunshine Tidings, behind the red door lies the comic that amplifies our amount of Yaogai roast, one of the 2 best consumables in the game, by the way. It lets you deal tons of melee damage even without investing in strength, and as a bonus in Fallout you get XP for cooking, so the more meat you have, the more XP you get. This place also a free settlement. Do whatever you want with this info. Now the business part. We need 3 issues of Tales of a Junktown Jerky Vendor. Have you ever wondered what it's like to marry a non-virgin woman? Anyway, in this drain pipe you'll find 2 low-level raiders and the comic we need.
Perfect.
The second issue is located here. You can take it without shooting at all. Wiping the floor with my fanboy skirt, I stealthily loot the stand and leave the building.
Yes.
This robot is not even needed. The third and last piece of the puzzle, in the neighboring house, near one of its entrances, lies the comic. All 3 issues that I collected in about 10 minutes passively reduce merchants' prices by 9% for the rest of the game. Considering our charisma stat, we're already paying about half of what a normal player would at this point of the game. To further boost our trading skill after sleeping, I head to Covenant. You must sleep here because there's a bug. When a Covenant shop remains permanently closed, closed until you lockpick it. This isn't Oblivion, you can't do it without the perk here. With Covenant there's only one problem, you have to talk to people. I always just picked the top option, but here you can say anything, I guess. Finally, we bought another charisma buff. In case you decide to fight with someone later, the doctor here sells jet.
Work for old man Stockton. You saw him, right? I already told you.
Next target after sleeping, that swamp. What's interesting there, in the cave next to it, at the cooking station, there will be a comic that increases your swimming speed by a quarter. If in the game I can make my character faster, I do it as early as possible. In this cave there are basically no enemies, just a couple of ghouls at the exit that simply aren't fast enough to catch you. Since we're in this part of the map anyway, I can't pass up Long Naklukovsky's cannery on the coast. That's literally another free 8% benefit on any purchase. Getting there isn't that hard, just ignore all the mobs you meet. Inside the building there won't be any enemies, only 2 arguing traders. Riley will go outside right away, she's a level 4 trader. To recruit her you'll need to meet these complicated requirements, and since we don't meet them yet, you might worry that, as the wiki says, she'll start wandering the world, turning into some random encounter trader you'll have to find near campfires to recruit, which would be a waste of time in the future, but in all my playthroughs she just stays near that building until I reach the required level and just come back to get her. So after finishing the guide you can simply come back here and pick her up. Back to the reason for visiting this location. Inside we're interested in the top floor, needed items lie by the terminal, a trader comic and a Bobblehead.
Bingo.
Oh, on the way back, remember I mentioned a best +2 charisma under armor. You can find it in General Atomic's Galleria. This stuff is the best, cause you can wear it with arms and legs armor. That can boost charisma as well in theory. If you find any items with this prefix in the bowling alley, negotiate with the robot to let you in, and summer shirts we need will be in the locker. As a final touch, on the way back you can pick up the comic that increases damage at night. Usually people came for it on high levels, but that's a mistake, considering there are plenty of bats nearby to say that. The first bat is in the shack full of blood flies, although there's a common bug where some flies get stuck in the textures and prevent you from sleeping. So the second option is just to get rid of that raider. With 1 or 2 jets, annihilating an enemy who can't one-shot you is no problem. So with a nearby safe spot, using Elden Ring style looting, you can just ignore outpost Jumanji mobs and steal the comic from right under their noses. Magazines in the game are exactly like perks, and often a single issue can increase damage with a certain weapon almost twofold, so don't ignore it. At this point we have 4 points of bonus charisma and a 17% permanent prices buff from Bobblehead and the comic. All of this took about 30 bullets and 30 minutes of intense speedrunning, but chances are you spend more resources on this little trip, so it probably makes sense to resupply in Sanctuary Hills. All the more I need to quickly explain a bit of the basics about how efficient settlements function in this game. I recommended buying a crystal, now it's time to spend it on the radio tower to attract settlers. And now be assured, settlers can easily take your power armor and any of your items from chests if you left it in an accessible place. If that happens, in case you don't find that NPC that stole your items, they can just die from some random anal cancer and their body will disappear along with your awesome unique gear. To isolate important items, it's a must to build a structure with a ladder and a levitating platform with chests. That platform must not have any contact with the ladder. NPCs can walk even on pipes to grab your unique legendary rifle to fend off some mole rats that ran past the settlements. So the only physical access to your items should be by jumping. NPCs can jump. This is roughly how any of my personal bases look. Obviously it's the safest spot in the settlement. This place has never seen sex, let alone violence or theft. While we were away, some amount of water has accumulated in the workbench, so be sure to build a separate container to move the water from the workbench into. New water only spawns if there is no existing water inside the workbench. By this point, thanks to huge charisma, you can loop an infinite money flow. Take water, sleep 2 days, and within 5 minutes sell the water to Clara, who often visits the settlement. If you abuse shelves, you already have the possibility to take local litter perk to 2nd rank and assign local residents as traders, which further increases the caps per minute income. After selling the water, you can buy junk for crafting more water towers, but honestly buying materials is not the most profitable investment of money and time when you have junk collection stations that passively gather resources. They require settlers to run, and the more settlers work there, the more materials you'll accumulate over time. Of course, the chance a settler will loot a valuable rare item is lower than them finding a piece of wood or scraps, but anyway it's better than spending time trading or running around the world collecting junk yourself. This system works roughly like water. The amount of junk is limited by the number of scavenging stations, and if your workbench already has too many resources, NPCs will stop collecting. So if you don't need to build something right now, it's better to move all junk into some nearby container. You can scale the amount of self-collected junk almost indefinitely later using robots to create one big mother base that gather resources, and at that point you pretty much forget about the resource problem. In any newly captured settlement, just having one settler assigned to a caravan makes it ready to build anything. For example, a decontamination arch. By this point you've probably built up some radiation, but don't rush to waste money and time on RadAway or doctors with their long animations. The arch instantly and completely cures all radiation. Combined with sinks, it's like America finally got a free healthcare. Some might ask, what about food stamps? Look, these are two best plants in the game in terms of nutrition to weight ratio. They both remove hunger equally well. The only difference is that mud fruit irradiates you less, but takes up more space in the garden, while corn irradiates you more, but it's more compact. Soon we'll gain full immunity to all food reds, so I prefer corn. Over time, plants will also appear passively in the workbench. Survival hunger lowers your charisma, and that increases prices. Keep an eye on that. Since we're about to head further down the map, to make the upcoming route nicer, put the junk back into the workbench and only take into your inventory exactly enough resources to place a radio beacon from scratch. That way, visiting any settlement, you'll immediately be able to restock all resources from ammo to food. Just place the beacon, wait a couple of hours. One person is enough, you can immediately place a weapon merchant's post. Buy armor you need, then send the peasant on a supply line, which gives you access to all of Sanctuary's junk for when you need to build something in this new settlement. Also for the trip, I advise buying something protective from Clara. Military and army uniforms are a decent starter and appear in her inventory fairly often. Take more 45 caliber ammo and a Tommy gun. If you're lucky, a battle rifle, that's even better. Speaking of buying this stuff if you want it for free, just so you know, Todd Howard is a big Minecraft fan. Otherwise I can't explain why he added cages to the list of constructibles. The best trap attracts gunners. Yeah, trap attracts gunners. After the enemy spawns, you need to refresh the lure. Obviously, a gunner's gear is worth more than a lure, so effectively cages are a perpetual XP, ammo and gear generators. And of course, you don't have to place the trap in the open field. You can set this up inside a very long enclosed house, 4 blocks wide, with a single exit, a hanging gate that closes when power is cut. Main thing here, trap releases gunners when power is cut too. So if you place traps, a door and a switch, power that switch with a generator. Sleep a couple of days, check the long house, and if there are victims inside the cages, pull the trigger, and you get several fishes in a closed aquarium. Anyway, however you obtained your weapons and armor, via trading or via Minecraft style farming, now you can confidently head south. There we'll be getting the best power armor in the game, and the new best area of effect weapon. And of course we'll loot some collectibles that buff our quality of life even further. Also, on the way we can pick up the best purchasable non-power armor. In late game, normal gear always outperforms power armor in almost every parameter except movement speed, and in the early game it will help us reach the power armor more easily. You can either buy the stuff I list right now or buy it while passing these towns and locations later while playing. If it weren't for recording the video, I'd obviously be too lazy to farm water to buy everything, but because I like my videos to be structured, I'll talk through all purchases right now. The only thing that everyone will really need, that you should not delay buying, the weapon will run with until the end of the game. It costs around 1000 caps. For all purchases in general, you'll need about 30 times more, which is more convenient to carry as jars. You can deliver it to the vendor and just barter jars for the armor you need on the spot. That's about 3000 jars. If you decide to go crazy and buy everything at once, I don't recommend carrying jars in inventory. You can just drop them on the floor and hold the interact button. No speed debuff will apply, and and the jars will levitate in front of you to the destination. First item, a helmet for agility buff. You'll have to run to the extreme northeast corner of the map. When you reach the shore, you'll find a turn north, which leads you beyond the map. At the end of the road stands a Mr. Nakana's house. His daughter ran away thinking she's not human. You can complete the full detective quest yourself, or you can just immediately go to the neighboring barn. Take the key from under the picture frame, open the safe, listen to the Japanese schoolgirl voice log. She tells the father the info he needs, so Nakana lets you use his boat to later use his daughter on the DLC island. Before heading there, take your jars. In between locations, they can only be moved inside the inventory. In the town itself, ignore the people who approach you. If you start talking to them, you'll trigger a quest event you're not leveled for yet. So go to the trader, buy the best purchasable combat helmet in the game, return to the ship, and you can wish the islanders luck, though they don't need it. You can visit them anytime later. Next target, Covenant. Again, one trader often stops near it. Lucas Miller. This guy sells top tier left leg protection. You probably need an explanation why I choose legendaries that increase specifically agility and perception. Look, this is a reverse filtering. There simply aren't many good legendary prefixes and purchasable gear in this game. Luck as a stat is basically useless by itself. You see what it increases, it's bullshit. Intelligence and charisma, there's essentially only one legendary armor piece that increases them that you can buy, and we already bought it. Strength and endurance, these properties would seem best, but the endurance buffs from an armor pieces for some reason does not increase HP, so it's useless because it only affects duration of a sprint. Strength, on the other hand, is good. It increases carry weight and, most importantly, melee damage. But here's the thing, agility also positively affects melee weapons, allowing you to make more attacks in VATS. And on top of that, you can use that same VATS for shooting. In other words, armor that buffs agility and improves VATS is the most universal and best option available for purchase. Of course, the same logic applies to the free gear. Anyone can believe in the truth. To believe in nonsense is an unforgettable demonstration of loyalty. It serves as a political uniform, and if you have a uniform, you have an army. We have two options, army fatigues and military fatigues. I've already recommended buying them, but since they rarely appear in shops, here are their guaranteed locations. The army fatigues gives +1 to strength and agility. Looks better on melee builds. Near Hallucinogen Inc., after a couple buildings, there's a door to the Marlborough house. On the second floor, you can find a dirty army uniform that gives the same buffs as the clean one. Second option, the military fatigues gives +2 to agility, best if you use guns. Visit police station. As you see, I don't want to waste bullets, so I played like a rat, fighting from behind a fence and beat ghouls in melee. Anyway, the brothers here are immortal. After a little talking, they let me into the building, and after going through a couple of rooms, I finally found the military outfit. Next target, very close, Vault 81. If you talk to the girl trader in the Vault suit from the beginning, this place is already marked for you. Because we have 14 charisma, there's no chance to fail the conversation. Fusion cores we'll need ourselves in the next 30 minutes, so it's not like we want to give them away. Rather, we'd like to buy some of them if we meet traders. If you spend ammo on the way here, also don't forget to buy it too. Here or in the next town. In this location, there will be a boring skull kid trying to show you the vault. I never hated kids as much as now, especially those in class with their teacher. Sometimes I forgot to go to Concord's Preston building, so the quest short stories didn't trigger, and I had to return to Concord and back to get that comic. By the way, without even encountering a Deathclaw and a power armor, the character will still somehow perfectly recount a story about something that hasn't happened yet. And more about this cursed vault. If you decide to do the quest to find Curie and her medical block, do it with leveled sneak and a suppressor, or you will be forced to save scum. With any cost, you must not let local mole rats damage you, because they give a permanent HP debuff, and you can only remove it by settling matters with the local school kid.
He can die for all I care.
After the comic thing and excursion situation, you'll probably want that, but if you're not going to roleplay a psychopath, you'll have to play with a debuff most people won't even notice, so just don't let those rats bite you. Finally, you can buy the best weapon in the game, or rather the most convenient, I should say. .45 ammo is practically infinite, you'll never run out of it. Overseer's only competitor using the same ammo is the Radium Rifle, which has about a 0 chance to drop with needed 2-shot prefix. But a Radium Rifle can compete only in theory. It shoots the same ammo, deals slightly less physical damage, but compensates with radiation radiation damage. As you might expect, the radium should be stronger against humans who fear radiation and weaker against monsters. But in practice, it ends up dealing less damage to both. Other options like the Gatling laser or AoE weapons are a whole different class. They have firing delays and massive spread, nothing like average rifles. But to be fair, there's one particular type of enemy that the Overseer's Guardian, like any other ranged weapon except one, simply can't handle. There's a set of enemies in the game that scale with your level, and the toughest of them is the legendary Fog Crawler. Its strongest version appears at level 6188. If you level up even once beyond that level, the auto-leveling system just breaks. Most enemies will start spawning with just 1 HP. Anyway, this auto-leveled creature can realistically only be killed using furious weapons. You can get this prefix randomly only for melee weapons, which when combined with stealth can destroy the crawler fairly easy. With one shot, there's no enemy in the game that lives more than one melee attack from stealth. However, when it comes to ranged combat, there's only one gun in the entire game that can take it down in less than half of a minute. The AK with the Furious effect. It's the only ranged weapon with that modifier, which completely breaks the game's balance. The difference is dramatic. While the second best DPS gun in the game take minute and a half to kill the crawler, the Salver does it in just 19 seconds. But there's one major downside. AK ammo is among the rarest in the game. It can't be crafted at workbenches. In the Commonwealth, you can get only tiny amounts from random encounters with unique raiders, and on the island you won't find a single round. You can buy them in large quantities only at raider settlements, which you'll have to destroy before the Minuteman questline. After that, there will be only one vendor in Nuka World. So in practice, the AK is more of an emergency weapon, and for that role, melee is actually more reliable. So, like I said earlier, in terms of convenience, the best ranged weapon is still the Overseer's Guardian, and because of the increased recoil on this gun, you may need to attach a couple of mods to it. And for that you need some resources, so it's not a bad idea to conquer a small raider camp. While I clear the location, try to clarify the weapon mods mechanic. Thanks to the two-shot effect, the Overseer's Guardian fires an additional projectile per round. That extra projectile carries the damage of the combat rifle's unmodified receiver. In other words, that extra bullet can be improved by perks, buffs, passives and such, but not by the workbench. Damage increase from mods will improve only the normal projectile, not the extra one. Pretty convoluted mechanic, but I think you get it. In exchange for damage, the Overseer has heavily increased recoil, and firing it in automatic mode, especially with a big scope, is a bit problematic. But in the early stages, when you really need DPS, that's the best option. The best build for this weapon that you can make without having any perks looks like this. Oh, and since we're building a supply line, I think it's time to present a leveling plan for the first 20 levels of your character. Second level, as you already know, Savant. Third, Science. Fourth, Cap Collector. Fifth, Endurance. 6th, Aqua Boy to remove swimming from RadAway costs and not waste time running to decontamination arches. 7th, Bloody Mass to increase damage from all sources. 8th, Local Leader to link settlements by caravans. 9th, Bloody Mass rank 2. 10th, Strength for carry weight and melee damage. 11th, Savant rank 2. 12th, Strength. 13th, Strength. 14th, Local Leader again. Rank 2 allows us to build stores. That's probably one of the most useful things in the game. 15th, Strength, and all other levels up to 20, Endurance. By level 20, even if you drag things out on purpose, you'll have a farming gun anyway. And once we get it, you'll need to take only specific perks to buff that gun. In other words, right now there is no point in discussing leveling past level 20. I'll get back to it in the final segment of the guide. Well, to sum up this little off top, we've obtained the best under armor, bought and modded the best purchasable weapon, and laid out the leveling plan for the first 20 levels. Now back to the topic of the best purchasable armor. From the same vendor with Overseer's Guardian, I took Left Armguard, minus 10% to odds cost. Solid pick, along with bonuses to agility and perception. In Diamond City, buy a torso armor that boosts agility from the Asian woman at the market. Then go to the second trader, she lives in a basement, and take her champion's right arm. From the baseball guy by the bat, this is a top 2 melee weapon in the game from those that you can buy or get through a quest. Next, I suggest visiting Good Neighbor, located next to the tallest building in the city. Run around and you'll find it for sure.
I'm in Good Neighbor.
Hey, that's a CIA guy right there. FBI, right?
From the local robot, I buy top tier right leg. Aside solid defenses, its main skill is that it triggers bullet time at low HP. Knowing all these armor spots, even if you didn't farm water, by the time you saved up money, you can quickly go grab all that stuff. But obviously, if you randomly found armor with those legendary prefixes, you don't need to buy anything for that specific slot. Radiation-based gear is the best in the game, roughly as broken as aura builds from Old Path of Exile. They work on the same principle. You trade your HP but get universal upgrades across the board. So what do we have at this point? A beefed up base in Sanctuary City, a second base near Diamond City, a trade setup with 14 charisma, the best under armor in the game, the best weapon in the game, and the best armor you can buy. Or maybe a shopping list for the future if you decided not to buy it all right now. Our setup is complete. I think it's time to hit the first real power spike. Good Neighbor serves as an excellent starting point. There's a nearby huddle with one of the unique traders who has a bonus to his gold cap, and he's also an old acquaintance. In the same building on the first floor, there's a comic that increases XP gained while you walk with a companion. Dogmeat doesn't count as a real companion, so the perk doesn't apply to him. Luckily for us, across the road in the basement bar, there is an NPC from Fallout 3. You can hire him for about 100 caps. Each companion in this game has a perk they give you as a reward for maxed affinity. McCready's perk is not that bad. It almost nullifies the difference between head and body shots in watts, but that's for later. For now I just need someone to carry my junk and give an XP bonus. Walking a couple of streets between Good Neighbor and Diamond City, you can pick up a permanent plus 1% to HP. Well, rather 1% to evade any attack. Probably the most useful combat buff in the entire game that you can get from a magazine. It lies on the first floor of Hubris Comics. The upper floors holds lots of unique loot needed for quest, maybe for collection, so you can come back later if you want. By the way, we're still in Boston. The best power armor in the game, delivered in the next-gen update, is close by. The quest for getting it is a bit confusing, and the worst part is that with one wrong action you can permanently lose the best modification, unique modification for the armor. At Watts Electronics, after getting free XP destroying robots, I listened to a tape, run to the radio tower. Oh wait, game crashed. Run to the tower again, hear Enclave soldiers disguised as civilians trying to figure out how to activate the tower. They're not thinking that long for nothing. Before you try it yourself, make sure to save. The quest can randomly glitch here and stop you from completing it. Next target is the BATFL regional office. I quickly clear the local raiders. Even without bought armor they pose no threat, but with it it's just an annihilation. Okay, we found another voice log and then the password for it near a pack of cigs in a smashed wall. Press some buttons, quest step will be completed. Right next to the log and password there'll be a terminal, beside which lies a comic. Why not to take it? Last target, the second radio tower, which is guarded by a couple of mole rats, and now all that's left is to take the armor itself. Make sure you have at least one grenade or a Molotov. If not, you can buy it from a trader here. To get into the building with the armor, you need to blow out the plank blocking the door from the inside. Try not to burn yourself. Inside the basement there will be a hunter rifle with a scope and a useless tattoo comic. But most importantly, the armor. When you see it, don't even think about relaxing. You must turn off the Enclave radio. If you leave it on, the safe with unique armor modification won't open. If you turn off the radio and then just leave the location, the safe will lock again. So cut the audio, immediately grab everything in the safe, and now we can jump into the armor, depriving those poor souls of the pleasure of serving 510 years for the armor laws. I immediately attached the Tesla mod on the armor. By the way, there's a fun fact, being in a third person increases your attack speed, and it works completely the opposite way for the move speed boosts. For example, the one we received from our Tesla armor mod. Due to a bug, it only works if you run in first person. This rule applies to all move speed sources in the game, it just works. Hopefully you will restock ammo at your nearest settlement and get some good sleep, because on the way out you'll most likely run into Enclave guys. They're not too well equipped, don't even have a single piece of X2, only Hellfire 1. Pathetic. In the worst case, if you'll be unlucky and one of them will be legendary, just be a little more careful then. By the way, while you were running around looking for the Enclave, your companion got lost. Here's the terminal, where you can attach a tracker to any of your companions. It will appear on your quest log, and you'll find your required friend without problems. Or you can just use some elevator between locations. Most of the time, lost companions just appear in it. If you're planning to part ways with any companion, I advise sending them to one single place, so it will be easy to find them and level up affinity. It levels up even if the companion isn't in the squad, but just nearby. For example, those who like when you modify your equipment can be passively leveled up as a group. Pre-final act, I head into the glowing sea down the map. Of course you can just run there, but I prefer to lay a logistics chain and act more safely on survival. Capturing a couple of mini bases lets you place ammo vendors posts and set up food and water sources. For survival that's vital. Power armor protects from external threats, but is powerless against hunger. Also it would be nice to grab a couple of comics on the way. The first in, Trinity Charge. There is a bunch of super mutants guarding a magazine that increases damage against them. As usual, the safest strategy is to run up close and hold the right button in the enemy's face. There's really no other way to finish fights quickly at the start of survival. To complement our already solid defenses, I think it's time to get all the remaining issues of the best magazine in the game. The one that gives a chance to evade damage. At the technical high school near combat zone, beat some raiders, go down to the basement, there'll be a boss with a unique collectible hat. And my favorite comic. Counting the earlier copy we looted at Hybris Comics while heading from Good Neighbor, now enemy's chance to miss us is 2%. Boston military checkpoint, take a comic for critical shots. I mentioned it only because it lies in the open space on the way. The next issue for chance to miss comic in a large shack on the water. On the way you can not only buy ammo from an old lady, but also nearby using the top orange dialogue option, gaslight a second lady into handing you her settlement. After you loot the comic you can also grab the baseball card and the signed ball in case you decide to do this guy's quest later on. The fourth comic part is in the second school. Besides the giant green Palestinian kids, you'll face a puzzle. Go to the second floor, turn left past the classroom, turn left again. In the blue chest you'll find the first key. Go down, by the entrance open the principal's office. His desk contains the second key. Then back on the second floor open the big door. In the final room will be the last mutant. And on the table lies the penultimate issue. And the last one in the swamps, there is another school. I knew, yes, there were a lot of shooting ranges, but this many. In the main hall, climb the broken stairs and go around to the blocked door from the other side. There'll be some goals, and on one of the tables sits the final comic issue. Okay, it's all done. Every 20th hit inflicted on you now deals no damage. The effect of this magazine pack is even more effective than the last luck perk. With its reflection effect, there it's only 2% to reflect a shot. Here it's 5% from all sources. Now that the best comic in the game is collected, the next stop is Vault-88. There is no need to spell out how many resources are there. If your armor hasn't been upgraded to MK2 and isn't painted orange yet, it will be now. This vault is an almost endless source of materials for repairing and upgrading, but that's not the main reason. Even without all the resources, I would still come here for these two training devices. The overseer's desk, that buffs intelligence, and the exercise bike, that buffs endurance. In other words, buffs your HP. As you remember, armor items except under armor and this hat are buggy and don't give HP from endurance, so this bicycle is a must-have. The raiders here are pretty strong, especially in terms of how much suffering they can endure. I'm sure these guys could, in theory, watch the entire Rent-A-Girlfriend without stopping, but at least they don't do much damage, which makes sense considering I'm in the best armor in the game. Even without a single stim pack, I cleared them all with relative ease. After talking to Valerie, you'll unlock construction of the Overseer's desk. It grants an intelligence buff, but unfortunately this desk can be placed only in this location, so if you happen to use another training device and later want the intelligence buff back, you'll need to return to this vault to restore it. I clear out the space to get aluminium, steel and all that stuff, turn on the recruitment beacon system in the vault, and the game says I need to explore the vault. Well, you can do that, but I don't. Just sleep for a couple of hours in the bed, and the quest stage will complete automatically, moving straight to the resident interviews. Finally, I can build the bike. If you want to learn how to build the bike outside of the vault, you'll need to set up a terminal nearby, a generator, connect them all together, and then pick an experiment option. Even though the device blueprint is unlocked regardless of which model you choose, there is a clearly optimal strategy for the Vault-88 storyline when it comes to experiments. You can see it on the screen right now. So there's really no reason to pick anything other than the safest option, environmental enhancer. So what do we have right now? I collected the best magazine in, grabbed a couple of buffs that were just lying in the open world, got access to building templates of 2 best training devices in the game, and got an armor to resist radiation. Probably now it's time to create unlimited XP farm. Quest best of 3. On the way there I could ignore the mobs, but I just aesthetically enjoy the interaction of elongated spiked objects with flash. At the border with the glowing sea from the gunner's body, you need to trace the path to his friends, who went after the Tesla gun. Our goal is to get this experimental weapon instead of them, since Enclave Power Armor Model 2 is the best source of radiation protection in the game. The glowing sea doesn't bother us at all, nor do ghouls. Flies are nastier because of poison, but they still don't pose a threat. I think it would be better to prepare for the last fight. Here's the bed I saved on. This parking is probably the coziest area in this radioactive swamp. It gives off the vibes of some kind of bonfire spot from Souls games. Looting some ammo from ashes, activate the last Peep-Boy from a corpse, and from now on, just inject stimulators, drink water, eat, run close to the target. Being close to us, he'll be afraid to shoot from Tesla gun, so we can unload as many rounds as possible to his face. Easy, with that loot just return to Sanctuary. The road went without troubles. Back home, remember that long house I built? Make it 3 stories, so you can place 3 lines of gunner traps on each side. Place more trading points and assign the Vault-Tec ghoul we recruited in Good Neighbor to the shop post labeled as General. Build a ladder to the roof so it's easier to get up, and to make shooting down safer, put a concrete door frame. And for extra protection, cover part of the doorway with a painting, so enemies have a harder time shooting back. How the farming looks. Wait until the traps fill with gunners. When there are enough enemies, hit the electricity off switch, the door closes, cages open, run to the roof and start shooting from Tesla gun. This is the most effective farming weapon. Before the next gen update, people used normal guns, some used rocket launchers and Fatman, and you know, regular guns are painfully slow, and rocket launchers need ammo that doesn't drop from gunners. Tesla ammo drops in huge quantities, and as you see when without upgrades, Tesla is extremely effective for area of effect damage. After you get rid of all the gunners, just jump down, loot their bodies for ammo, then sell their gear or the water you have in workbench to vendors. Then you can buy materials from the Vault-Tec ghoul, who is the best general vendor by the way. Using these materials, you just fix broken traps, wait a couple days and repeat, gradually placing more traps and upgrading shops in the settlement. All this building is initial, not fully automated version of a farming station, but it's pretty enough to get a solid number of levels. By the time we got the Tesla gun, obviously the best decision will be to pour our points into farming accelerating perks. Bloody Mass to 3 for more % damage. Take 1 rank of medic to unlock the medical center and add another vendor. Max cap collector to build richer stores. Max endurance up to 10. HP is always super useful. And savant perk, must have thing. You should level it as soon as it's available, because at level 34 it unlocks an absolutely broken way of increasing farming speed. Maybe I'll cover that in future Fallout videos if I beat my laziness. Which perks should you be more careful with? You see, the 2 strongest builds in the game are built around radiation overload. The thing is that reaching level 4 ghoulish and rank 2 or above solar powered will remove that buff from you, passively lowering your radiation. So keep the ghoulish at rank 3 and solar powered at rank 1 if you don't want to lock yourself out of the best builds. Even more important, stealth related skills, Mr. Sandman and Ninja. You should only level Mr. Sandman after getting the perk from Deacon. Due to the weird stealth damage calculation system, the order of acquiring perks permanently affects your damage multipliers. Don't look for the logic, it just works. Getting Deacon's Cloak and Dagger early increases the initial multiplier, so later perks work on a larger base number. For some reason, if you take only Ninja, Cloak will retroactively affect it, and also give a best result. If you take Mr. Sandman before Ninja, the retroactivity breaks and you get the worst possible result. Most likely because Mr. Sandman simply cannot be retroactively buffed by a cloak. I don't know, that's just a bug and nobody will fix it. So if you don't want to ruin your build, that's the 3 perk orders that give maximum damage. So before leveling stealth, just join the railroad. Run along the red line, go to the church basement, type railroad, listen to the unskippable dialogues, and after clearing several dozen robots, Deacon becomes available as a companion at the railroad base. He's one of the easiest companions to level. Simple location clears with some lockpicking talking, terminal hacking, and spamming sarcasm in dialogues will do the job. When he wants to tell you something important, probably this means he wants to give you a perk. And now you can level Mr. Sandman. If you don't trust what's written on the wiki, instead of taking Deacon's buff immediately, once you see that he idolizes you, you can get 6 perk points on a farm and test the damage math with different perk sequences yourself. Oh, and regarding the special comic from the game start, you must choose which of your stats to permanently push above 10. Now that you have access to infinite XP, it'd be weird not to guard you from bad choices. To use that comic, you must first raise the desired stat to the maximum 10th level through the level up interface. Remove the gear that buffs that stat, then temporarily lower it below 10, and finally use the book. Basically, we have 4 usable stats to choose from. First, endurance. You can raise it only on survival difficulty, over encumber the character, then use the book. Boom, permanent endurance buff. Endurance scales so that the higher your level, the more HP you get from it. Each point becomes more valuable as the game progresses. If you're not playing survival and don't want to enter it just above the stat, but you anyway want extra XP, you can take the intelligence. It increases XP gain, and since Fallout gives HP per level, indirectly intelligence increases HP growth. But be aware, as your level rises, some enemies also scale up, so endurance is more efficient for pure health. To get intelligence, just use beer or other alka shit on a character. If you prefer more aggressive stats, agility. On survival, just use good old over encumbrance, and you're done. On default difficulties, take special book into your inventory. Then in the Nuka World DLC, visit Vault-Tec Among the Stars location. Here the corporates conducted experiments irradiating visitors. Run around and you'll get an agility debuff. Afterward, drop the book, pick it up, and there you go. Last stat option. My favorite, because it's aimed at min-maxing damage. Melee weapons in late game gets massive buffs, and this is one of them. To get it, run to one of the houses in Concord. On the 2nd floor, in the sink, you'll find Day Tripper. The side effect from using it is exactly what we need. Strength probably is the easiest permanent point. I don't know which stat you'll pick for the special book, but after you pump that stat, I'd waste maxing intelligence quickly. And when it hits 10, loot the Bobblehead in the Boston Public Library to push it to 11. Or 12 if you already chose intelligence while using special book. I really apologize for that fucking vocal fry. I promise I won't do it again. To speed up XP gain even more, take the perk Night Person. From 6 PM to 6 AM, you get an XP bonus from it. You can speed leveling even more with Mantas, Squirrel Stew, and starting a romance with a companion who will chill in the farming settlement nearby your bed so that every time you sleep, you'll be getting a buff loving embrace. And I think sooner or later, everyone runs into this guy near the Minuteman Castle. I strongly recommend capturing that castle right away, especially since the boss there is very easy. This location is very useful for recruiting this guy near it. This recruitment only possible if you have level 3 intimidation. For some reason, Parker isn't just some asshole scamming the player. He's actually a level 4 vendor and a potential settler that you can control in a settlement. As you understand, intimidation gives the ability to command Parker to move wherever you want.
Go there. Go there. Now go. Stand. Go there.
Какой-то остановился. The NPC control mechanic is still on beta, I guess. Once you've brought him to the castle, you can save, use stealth, and enter building mode. The moment you enter it, intimidation stops affecting Parker, which can cause him to attack you and block recruitment. That's why you need to use stealth first. While you're in it, just press move on Parker and send him to some distant settlement. Once you run to that settlement and wait for Parker to arrive, you'll find that he's officially counted as a settler and no longer hostile. Assign him as a bartender and you'll get an excellent vendor with an increased cap pool. Up until level 50, when you finally unlock intimidation level 3, just ignore Parker when he offers to sell you his coupon. If you buy it before he becomes your settler, Parker will simply disappear from the map and you'll lose top tier vendor. You should only buy or refuse his coupon offer once he's already tied to one of your settlements. So I covered pretty much all possible leveling mistakes. My quick min-max leveling guide is done. Wrapping up the settlement topic, when its building cap fills during farming, collect weapons from fallen gunners, drop it on the floor, and in building mode, press tab on it, sending those guns to the workbench. The settlement's build cap will permanently increase after that. Probably that's not even a bug, more like investment mechanic. By the way, in case somebody attack your settlement, don't help your settlers, otherwise a bug may occur when vendors will thank you for helping instead of trading. The only way to fix it is to run to another settlement and talk to the vendors, placed there. Just create more turrets if attacks annoy you, this way you won't have to intervene. There is also a bug with the Vault-Tec trader, where he constantly starts saying, "You're going to visit, right?" This shit can be fixed for sure only by loading a save. Before that bug happened. It's random and can appear, disappear after a few in-game days. While that NPC is bugged, just place another settler as vendor and send the bugged Vault-Tec guy to collect the trash. Surely there are mods that fix this, probably an official patch. There is also a fast trade mod that bypasses vendor bugs. But on the other hand, fast trade itself has a bug that lets you trade with one late game companion outside his location. That's the only reason I didn't install that mod. So guys, with unlimited money, the best gear you can buy and a pile of buffs, survival and very hard become much more playable. If you play on lower difficulties, by this point you'll be basically invulnerable. You know, I wanted to talk about the best possible builds, what you can do after getting the first levels on this farm to speed up the process even more. Wanted to show you the most optimized min-maxed version of the farm on the Epstein Island with an army of robotic cotton collectors. But I couldn't fit it all in the text and didn't want to stretch the video that much. Hopefully I'll beat my laziness someday and release more videos about Fallout, but for now I'm going to sleep, dear viewers. Have a good day.